Now, the first speech is about very local IT. Now, we all know IT is by IBM. And we all know there has been an old saying that it has never been anybody been fired for having bought IBM. In the meantime, there are other globals, very, very globals. It is that absurd, if you will, that the organization committee of Swiss Cyberstorm works on Google Docs. And with that, over to a very, very local perspective.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everybody. My name is Rogenmoser. I'm here to talk a little bit about how we try actually get IBM as a customer. I'm going to talk about my background a little bit, as was it also in the program, how I ended up here, tell you a little bit about what we're doing, how we're actually manufacturing hardware, secure hardware here in Switzerland, and where we're going, how we are actually planning to make our company bigger. So, like many of you, I started out at ETH Zurich and graduated there, did some stuff on chip design, and then had the fortune to actually get hired into Intel. And at Intel, I was in Santa Clara in Silicon Valley. I was living the dream, I was a microprocessor designer. Really, really cool stuff. Now, it was cool, but in 1999, there was something going on in Silicon Valley. It's the dot-com boom. And so I joined a little startup called SciByte. And each time you're in a startup, it's actually, they have nothing. So you can actually design from ground up. And I had the fortune there to design an IEEE compliant floating point unit from scratch. So dot-com boom, we actually got acquired by a small company called Broadcom. I think a few of them have heard about that company. We got acquired for $2 billion, and for about a year, actually for about a month, I really felt rich, and then the dot-com bust hit, and the 2 billion were like a year later worth 100 million. So we made some money, but not enough to retire. So I was there again in the microprocessor team, and the interesting thing, a group of that team actually went out and did PA Semi. Maybe some of you heard about Dan Doberpool, the guy who did the first alpha chip, like a long, long time ago. It was one of the digital chips that was the fastest chips around. That group got acquired by Apple, and they're building now all the iPhone chips, the A6 and the A7s and so on. And if I would have joined that path, I would probably not be here, but I would be somewhere at Apple managing some chip designers. So, but no, I had other ideas. I didn't want to do another floating point unit, so I thought I want to get another degree. One degree is not enough, so I went for the management track. I did an MBA in Santa Clara. And after that, I joined another company. You might have heard about that, Transmeta. Transmeta were the bold people that actually went after Intel and really forced them to do low power chips. I was at the tail end of Transmeta, and unfortunately, Transmeta then decided to sue Intel for patents. And that was a time where I realized, should I wait for another payout or should I do something more interesting? And since I'm not a guy who wants to wait around, I joined a colleague of mine doing electric motors. Electric motors. That's actually where I went into. I know you have to think about it. I just did an MBA and I'm now the expert fundraiser. So I actually started raising money for those guys. So after like 30 meetings with VCs in Silicon Valley, we managed to get money from top-notch VCs, NEA and Menlo Ventures. They gave us $12 million. But they also asked, hey, what is Robert doing there? He's a semiconductor guy. This is an electric motor company. So I was looking for another job. And at that time, my wife said, stop hopping around with startups, get a stable company. And I joined a stable company that was IDT. IDT has been around as much as, for the same time as Intel. It has just been not as successful, but cool thing, okay, I had a nice job at IDT. It was interesting. However, after 2 months, they sold one division and laid everybody off, so that much about a stable job at the company. However, I left some impression at IDT. A month later, another VP hired me back to kill some other fires in the company. Didn't have much fun there, so I went back to another startup company, Suvolta. Suvolta was really an aggressive company that wanted to reinvent semiconductors. And we had a very good technology, worked with Fujitsu. We actually could reduce power of semiconductor chips by over 50%, having the same performance, same speed, same cost. But semiconductors companies do what Intel does, and Intel didn't buy our technology, so this went bust. So after 17 years and my wife asking me, we really agreed to go to the US for 2 years, not that long, we came back to Switzerland. And in Switzerland, I met up with a friend of mine and we started a company called Securasys. Securasys, our initial idea was very noble, very interesting. We wanted to secure industrial communication. So if you look at it, we started talking to power companies here in Switzerland, and they said, from our headquarters to our power generation to the distribution and everywhere, we're actually secure because it's our own connection, It's our connection that we have. It's 50 miles over land, but so on. But it's ours, we don't need to encrypt it. They started thinking a little bit more, but up to this date, they actually didn't do anything. So we started Securasys end of 2013. In 2014, April, we put it in the commercial registry. And the idea was really doing industrial communication. And now the things that when you start a company happens, a customer comes by and says, it's interesting what you're doing, but can you do something else? And the something else was, can you build an HSM? The people asking was the Swiss National Bank, the Swiss Fed, and SIX. And it took us about a couple seconds to say, yes, we want to build that. We can do that for you. So, and that's how we did it, So we switched over and started building an HSM. It was really about executing and doing it. We had these funny exchanges, where we started doing it, building it, had the prototypes ready. I called up SIX really in April 2015 and said, we have the boxes here, where should we deliver them? And they kind of, what? You have something to deliver, you startup, And this was like a change from initially they told us, at SIX, we never had a project that was so critical, so much risk like working with you guys from, we really like you guys and you're not anymore on the critical path. Look, let's move on. And we got the biggest fans out of them. So this is my bragging slide. We have now lots of customers, mostly in the financial realm. What I'm kind of proud of is now we have also EMI as a customer, so it's not just banks. So why did the National Bank and SIX choose us? They had several considerations. One of them was they're running the Swiss Interbank Clearing System, which is like the financial backbone of Switzerland. We have about $100 billion or Swiss francs in transactions on that system every day. On peak days, it's 500 billion. That's the gross domestic product of Switzerland, the yearly gross domestic product of Switzerland, going through that system in one day. And they wanted to have a system that's not from somewhere, but they wanted to have a system that they actually knew where it's coming from. They knew what's in there. They can look at the source code and can review it. They realized they're not the expert in reviewing it, so they hired some of the companies that are here today actually to do some penetration testing with us, but they also asked the Department of Defense here in Bern, can they look into the system? And they did. So the Swissness, building it here in Switzerland, is actually one of our USPs, having the possibilities to let all of our customers look into the box. So if you're a customer, you can look in our stuff. And for us, it's really important by also manufacturing here in Switzerland, we have control over the whole supply chain. When I say we manufacture in Switzerland, it's not like we're building all the chips in Switzerland, because if you would do that, we had like, the performance of a watch chip in our system. That's not enough. So what we did is actually we build an electronic by ourselves. We started out with my co-founder Andreas Kuriger, who worked at Omnisec. We could take, for example, the case of this box, and you see the lineup of our systems here, because building a case is actually one of the longest things to do in hardware design. Electronics is faster, that went a little bit faster, and software never ends. So we have now like 2 man-years in hardware and about 30 man-years in software. And the guys are still working on the software to make it better and bring in new features. So when I say manufacturing in Switzerland, people are surprised that you can do that. And we actually work with 2 companies here in Switzerland. One is Enix. Enix is a spin-out of ABB. They're in Baden. The other one is CCS, or CCS Adaxis. They have now the manufacturing line in Mendrisio. And when you go there and visit it, it's not different than when you go to Shenzhen or wherever the big, in Taiwan, big manufacturing places. They have everything there. They have the people there. They have the machines there. Except they have probably one line, or one manufacturing line. If you go to Shenzhen, it's like a football field of manufacturing lines. But think again, we are not manufacturing millions of units. We're not making my iPhones, we're making security devices. So we're manufacturing in the hundreds. So that line is way sufficient for us, and having 2 suppliers, we actually have the redundancy. Moreover, when there is a problem for us to manufacture, the guy hops in a car and an hour later he's at the manufacturing line and can solve the problems. If we would manufacture in the Far East, the guy would have been gone for a couple of weeks to actually resolve the issue. And if he had to come back and pick up something from the office, it wouldn't work either. So here's actually my co-founder, Andreas Kuriger, on the right. In the middle is our first employee, Marcel Dasen. So he's the head of engineering. So I said we want to secure the supply chain in our products. So this is one thing. We manufacture in Switzerland. Then we have another thing that we take care of. It's make sure the box, actually what we build, gets securely to your site. And this is a famous picture. You've probably seen it before. It's from our friend Edward Snowden. So this is the NSA opening up the box. So that was shipped from apparently Cisco, or a distributor from Cisco. The NSA intercepted it, opened it up, did something to it, closed it up, and sent it on. So this won't work with our equipment, because that's another security measure we will put in. First of all, our HSMs are full of temper sensors. So whenever you open up, it will temper. It will erase everything that's in there. And there is no gas or something like that. It's just, it erases the contents. So when we actually ship a box, there is no content in it. So what we actually came up with the concept is a digital seal. Whenever the boxes are manufactured, they get to our site, we open up everything, we take pictures, and then we load the real software on it. Once the real software is loaded, we also have a battery in there. From that point on, our box is active. So if it in transport, in storage, anybody opens the box, the digital seal will be erased, and you guys know, okay, somebody tampered with it, send it back to Securasys. Or the digital seal is there, everything is fine, I can start. And only when you actually start the box, that's where the box generates all the secrets. Other things you have to consider when you're actually doing these things, and I'm going back here to a threat that some of you might have heard. It's Spectre and Meltdown that was started, I think about 10 months ago was the big uproar. So these are vulnerabilities that are inside the chips. And so I actually know what I'm talking about because I used to be a microprocessor designer. So trust me. You don't have to just trust me. I'm going to show you something more about this. All the software fixes they put out, and I think if you read about it, you actually realize software fixes don't fix these problems. They're really deep in the hardware. And so you have to think about when you run critical software, where do you run it? Are you running in a shared system where other people might actually get access to your stuff? So as a consequence, or actually what we always said with our boxes, we don't allow any other code to be run on the box, you know. We know what we did, and that's it. That nobody else has access to run system stuff on our box, you know. Just to tell you a little bit more about Spectre and Meltdown, as I said, I'm an insider, and when the whole thing came out, a coworker of mine, Bharadwaj, actually started posting a detailed analysis on Facebook. You know? So I wasn't really in the TLBs and the speculation side on these things. As I said, I did the floating point unit, that's something different. But really, he figured these problems out 20 years ago, you know, and he actually reported it to management and filed a bug. And they said, "Yo, this is a cool corner case you found, but we're not going to fix it. You know, that's so far out that nobody will ever use those things. But good catch. Here are 2 movie tickets. You know, so that happened. You know, 20 years ago. And the fun part was he was actually here in Switzerland this summer, and we caught up and watched some football. And if you want to read more about it, it's on the blog site in our page, in our thing. So I've been in Silicon Valley, you know, and the question is, why are we in Switzerland? Why are we doing stuff in Switzerland, you know? And looking at doing a company in Switzerland, doing a startup in Switzerland, it's not the best place for a startup. There are several reasons for that. Switzerland is very rich, but the venture capital is not very strong in Switzerland, you know. There are maybe 5 to 10 VCs in Silicon Valley. There are hundreds, you know. We wrote to 100 VCs, we visited 30, and then we got money. And if that wouldn't work out, we would have had 200 more VCs to go to. There are very good engineers in Switzerland, but not that many. And they're not that hungry. So what do I mean by that? So when I hire an engineer in Silicon Valley, they ask, what's the job? What do I do? Because that's the most important thing to them. And the second question is, how many shares do I get? When I hire an engineer here in Switzerland, the first question is the same. What's the job? The second question is, how many vacation days do I have? So now, the other great thing in Silicon Valley is, you know, when you build something for Cisco and you want to discuss it with them, you hop in the car and drive to Cisco and discuss it with them. They're there. Everybody's there. If you're here in Switzerland, the market is really small. You have to go outside. You have to go anywhere. But if you think a little bit further what we are doing, I realized that doing a cybersecurity or a cyber hardware company, it's a real advantage being here in Switzerland. You know, Swiss jurisdiction is very clear. You know, we're very independent. I don't have somebody from a 3-letter agency coming to my office and telling me, we want the backdoor in your system. And you have to put it in your system, and if you don't do it or talk about it, you go to jail. You know, that's not happening in Switzerland. So that's one thing why we can guarantee you we have no backdoors in there. That's why we can let you review the code and verify that. So this is kind of where I came from, what we do with Securasys, and now the question is, where are we going? And where we're going is, we follow Sutton's law. Anybody know Sutton's law? No? So Will Sutton was a bank robber, and he was in front of the judge, and the judge asked him, why did you rob the bank? And he said, yeah, that's where the money is. So that's why we're doing the same thing. So where is the money today? The money is in cybersecurity, but a big new market that's coming up and needs a lot of encryption is cryptocurrencies, blockchain systems, you know. They deal with public-private keys. We're doing that. We can do that. We can actually help them do that because most of them have great ideas, but not much experience. So, and if you think about Bitcoin, for example, there's public-private key. You have two keys. It's the public key where you get the money and the private key where you spend the money with. If you lose the private key, as a lot of people have done in the Bitcoin world, you have no more access to the money because it's still there written on the blockchain that your address has the money, but you cannot spend it. You cannot do a transaction. So there is systems that people need to build there and protect their investments. Moreover, we think blockchain is even a bigger market because a lot of systems will move to that thing, and that also needs the proper level of security. I told you we don't allow to run software on our boxes. So that's another opportunity. We build a new system that's actually a trusted execution platform where you can run your own code securely without the threat of having anything else there. And we are doing key management, IoT key management. So the IoT thing is really in a mess, and our boxes currently, we can actually handle about 2 million keys. That's the latest what we did in development. This, for now, it's good enough. Nobody else is anywhere close to what we can do with keys. But when we really look into IoT, we need even more key handling, key management. The interesting thing there is we actually have our first customer that does IoT. It's in the power grid stuff, the smart meter environment. And interestingly, now we're back to our original idea that we want to secure industrial communication. So it's interesting how things work. So, and the final thing where we want to go is how many of you knew about Securosys before today? Okay, maybe 25%, We're not well known. We're a small company. We're a startup. We want to actually build up a real brand, go international, and have to set up subsidiaries, If we sell in Singapore, they want to actually have somebody in Singapore that helps them, is there to support them, You cannot work only through partners. We already started a subsidiary in Germany because, Switzerland is not part of the EU. There is actually a border with custom officer. Custom officers like to open packages. It's really bad when a package arrives at your customer that's kind of ripped apart. Happened to us when we sent something to Belgium to a very big financial customer, doesn't make a good impression. So we want to get internationally well known. So how do we do that? Or how can we finance that? And so there we're going another track also. Instead of going to VCs, what I did before in Silicon Valley, we're doing ICOs. Who has heard about ICOs? So, okay, this is the gray area now that we're getting into. So, so why are we doing this? We could get actually money from Swiss VCs. We talk to them. But for us, it's like all these guys building these blockchain systems. They also need our equipment to secure it. So it's at the same time a marketing campaign. So, and what we're doing is actually we're not doing a coin because honestly, I read a lot of that stuff and I didn't understand what the coin does. And so we decided to do a security token. In the end, our token has dividend rights and can be converted into company shares. It's actually our lawyer said, this is in the code of obligations in the OR, and you don't have to do anything special. So it's just, we call it differently. We call it token. So. And these are some metrics. If you really are interested in it and you can participate, it's a crowdfunding in the end, talk to me afterwards. So I'm getting to the last slide of my presentation, some takeaways here. I've been successful, or we've been successful with Securosys because we had big networks, My co-founder, Andreas Kuriger, we met each other when we were 18. We did orienteering competitions. He was just much better than me. I was just participating. He was actually winning. But we kept in touch, When we did our prototypes, we asked the distributor here in Switzerland, can we get these chips? And that was in January, end of 2014. Can we get these chips? We have to deliver in April. And they said, impossible. Supply chain the delivery times is 16 weeks, that's it. So it happened that I actually knew the advisor to the CEO of that company that was making these chips. So I sent him an email and 1 week later, we had the chips, which was like, you know, without network, we wouldn't have made our delivery date, our first delivery date. As a company, and also in this field, you have to always to look at new stuff, new challenges, you know. And Securus is that we're doing HSMs is really, we were there at the right time, at the right place. And really, if you think about it, if SIX and the SMB would have looked around for somebody doing HSMs half a year earlier, we wouldn't build those things. We would have done something different. And it's like a company, you know, you try out a lot of things, and whatever sticks, that's what you're going to do. So our case was HSMs, and we're actually quite happy because with our HSMs, we're now, for the blockchain stuff, we're actually at the right time, at the right place with our offerings. Something for you, you know, it was really funny. Christian and we talked about my presentation here and talking about manufacturing stuff in Switzerland, you know. And I think a few weeks ago, there was this Supermicro scandal, you know, so where people realized, oh, on my Supermicro computer, there is actually something more on it that I didn't really want offered by the Chinese government, you know, to survey the system. So by doing stuff yourself, you actually can make sure that, or using equipment that's secure, you can actually secure yourself. So going into cloud, as we heard earlier, you know, that's a lot of people doing that. But when you go into cloud, it's very cool to actually have all the CPU power that you can use there, flexible. But think about your keys, your identities, your secrets. You really want to have them up in the cloud, or you want to control it under your supervision. That's where we can help. And if you don't want to run the boxes, we even have a cloud HSM service. And so that's my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I am sure there are some questions because this is very Swiss and very local, and it's all based on networking, and you make even more money by simple networking and marketing.
Making money is always difficult, so.
Who wants to ask a question?
You were talking about the supply chain and everything to keep the system secure.
Yep.
How are you going to deal with updates, firmware updates? Do you have separate channels, or do you do it on the running system?
So I'm the CEO, so so bear with me when I'm pretty much a software update. It's you get assigned a binary from us that you can download from our support site and load it into your system. So there is several things to make sure that it's upward and downward compatible. So if things work, but it's actually it's assigned binary. So and that's how we verify that that it is the one that's running there. It's actually not so easy to write software for our system. It's a multi-processor system. You know, when I said we have this thing with the battery, that's actually a separate system that supervises everything, and that doesn't even have a Linux or an operating system in there. It's just our code running there that supervises it. So. Like, it's also good from a vulnerability point of view. So the main system is a hardened Linux, of course, you know. So yeah.
Thank you. Very interesting story. Looking at the first product where you could do money, would you have thought that you could earn money by producing hardware in Switzerland before that?
Yeah. So. What we are doing is a little bit, it's something new in that sense. But you know, in Switzerland there were the company my co-founder worked on, Omnisec, and there was a crypto AG. You know, they were actually building hardware in Switzerland, equipment for encryption equipment for more government targets. You know, what we decided to do, we don't want to go after that market. We want to actually go into enterprise market. Because the government market is very difficult. And as you've seen, both companies, Omnisec is now closed down. crypto has been cut apart and sold and so on. So these companies don't really exist anymore. And so it's still a struggle making money here because the market here in Switzerland is too small for us, you know. So it's not like that every business is going to buy boxes from us, you know. We're trying to do this with other offerings, with the cloud system that we have, with a, you know, we have a system now. It's called Swiss PKI. You know, it's our Swiss cloud that we're doing, you know, to provide a PKI system in a secure Swiss server locations and with secured by our hardware in this sense. But it's a struggle to make money here in Switzerland. Yeah.
Any more questions? Well, then, thank you very much for this exciting talk. It's been a pleasure to hear you.
Thank you very much.